Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of Masters of the Universe Origins Beastman. So this is a new line of figures that's out right now with modern articulation, modeled after the original Masters of the Universe figures in the 1980s, right down to the packaging. And so these retail for $14.99. They come with a mini comic and, all the accessories that the old ones did. And they are currently Walmart exclusives. According to Mattel, they will be thrown open to all retailers come next year. But right now they're Walmart exclusives, and you may see them sold for higher prices elsewhere. You may see secondhand buyers on Amazon and eBay and even Walmart.com. If they sell out of the product, they'll sell it for a higher price because the secondhand retailer bought it from Walmart and they're trying to make a profit by charging for more than what it's worth. So you can either wait until they're in stock at Walmart, or you can wait until next year and get them from other sellers. Amazon, I'm sure, will charge retail when they get in. It's $14.99 for the figures, $24.99 for Battle Cat, and $29.99 for the Jet Sled with Prince Adam. So if you're seeing it for more than that, it is a secondhand seller. And here he is at the packaging. He comes with the same mini comic that all the figures in this wave come with. He comes with the little pieces you're going to put on his arm, and of course he comes with the infamous or famous whip. So here he is with the arm pieces on and holding the whip. He gets a great grip on the whip, and as you can see, the arm pieces stay on securely. They are of a softer, more pliable plastic, and that's a good thing because his biceps are very big, so you're going to need to kind of stretch it a little bit to get this thing secured, but once it's on him, it is on him, so that's good. He has the same articulation as all the other male figures. His head can move around, his shoulders, elbows, wrists, legs, knees, feet, and he does swivel at the boot. And of course he can turn his waist as well, so there you go. And like all the other figures in this line, Beastman can break down into his composite parts, so you can mix and match and create your own creations or customize your figure. And I will say that his lower legs, or what would be the boots on most figures, actually came off much, much easier. So I'm not sure if that's a fluke for this particular Beastman, or if maybe Beastman is just a little easier to pull apart there than other figures. So I don't own a vintage Beastman, so I'm just going to have to use these pictures I found online to illustrate the differences here. So definitely a different head sculpt, but the biggest difference to me is that the collar doesn't go above his head or up to his head, which has been his look forever. And it's, the reason why, if you look at the cartoons, he has that hunched over posture because of the appearance it gives him. So for whatever reason, they changed this. I'm speculating that it might be because it would have limited his articulation in the head, but I would have gladly accepted that, because it's such an iconic look for the character. But this is still okay. It's just, definitely different. So while I don't have the vintage Beastman, I do have his whip from a weapons pack. And the vintage whip is over here. And I couldn't get it to fit into this hand securely. It would just fall off. But it can, kind of get a grip on it here, because this whip is much smaller than the new one, and obviously you can see they did something a little different with the string. It's much thicker, and it doesn't hold this weird shape that it did. But this was kind of an interesting way to get the shape of a whip in the air. And the new one, I think the new one is more designed for this sort of pose where the whip is on the ground, because it doesn't, you can't really get him whipping it in the air very well. It just falls down. But here, this is really designed, I think, for whipping in the air sort of poses. So they both have their gives and takes. Very interesting, how to take this classic accessory and, kind of switch it up a little bit and do something similar but a little different. So let's take his armor pieces off for a minute so we can examine his body. So most figures in this line use He-Man's body and they just repaint it. But Beastman has a lot of unique parts because he's more beast-like. So he has this hairy chest. He has these longer arms here that are furry. And he also has fur down here. So this is very faithfully recreated. We even got fur on the back as well from the original Beastman body. And let me illustrate that by bringing in Stratos, who does use the Beastman body, so you can see, yeah, they really nailed it and really recreated it faithfully all the way around. So that's pretty cool. So vintage Stratos has an abnormally large head for a figure, and so I couldn't get the new armor to fit over his head, so I'm just going to use He-Man as an example. Even though Beastman's chest is furry, it's still the same size as He-Man. So in theory, this might work on your vintage Beastman figure, but I can't say that for certain since I don't own a vintage Beastman. And yes, a vintage figure can get a grip on the new whip just fine. Here he is with the vintage He-Man and Skeletor figures, and as you can see, he fits in perfectly with the old line. And if you want to see compatibility tests with old vehicles in Castle Grayskull, you can check out my reviews of the Masters of the Universe Origins He-Man and Skeletor. But to sum it up, the new figures work perfectly with something like the Battle Ram or Battle Cat or something like that. Where they're going to have some difficulties is vehicles that required the old figures to do this, like the Wind Raider or Roton. But hopefully vehicles like that will be coming in this new line that will be compatible with the new figures. And here is the new Beastman posed with the figures from the new line. And as you can see, he looks awesome. One thing I did want to note is that if you're having difficulty getting the arm pieces on, it's actually easier to fasten them and then slide them up his arm. I found that's actually easier as I'm doing this review. One thing I did want to throw in there is that the reason why the hilt on Beastman's whip looks so strange is that actually this hilt was used in the Big Jim line, and so the figures were on a larger scale, so this is actually the part that they would grip on, and this was like the hand guard. And so since the vintage figure was on a much smaller scale, it actually ended up gripping the hand guard to hold on to the whip. So that's why it looks so odd. Anyway, I do really like this figure. It is really cool to finally add a Beastman to my collection. And this is a really good rendition of him with articulation and interchangeable parts. And this just continues to be a truly excellent line. I do have more reviews coming, so like and subscribe for more videos. And until next time, good journey.